Hello and welcome to the Your Financial Planning Maestro podcast. This podcast is aimed at financial advice professionals all around the world, but particularly in the UK, where we follow the journey of many hundreds of individual paraplanners, investment managers and financial advisors in becoming financial planning professionals and gaining their international certified financial planner license. We will be talking to a number of individuals about their journey to become CFP professionals and touching on other aspects of the profession along the way. I hope that you enjoy our podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Lockie, your financial planning maestro. And in today's podcast, we are talking to somebody who has very recently become a certified financial planner by passing their CISI L7 financial plan assessment. And that is Mitch Forster, who is financial planner at Abacus Wealth Management. Welcome, Mitch.
Hey, Jackie, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you?
Yes, very good. Pleased that I've got that done and dusted. That's all I can say.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I know that you've had lots of ups and downs along the way.
I have.
That you're happy to share with our audience to hopefully help them not make the same mistakes, but also to give them lots of confidence along the way if they're embarking on their own journey. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into a list of questions that I have for you. But before we get into the nitty gritty of the CFP and why you decided to go down that road, tell me a little bit about a little potted version of how you got into the financial planning profession.
Yeah, well, previously, in a previous role, I used to be a management accountant for a large pharmaceutical company. And I always knew the accountancy route wasn't the long-term solution to my career. I like socializing, I like providing a service. And when you're an accountant, you're almost just reporting on things, on items that have happened in the past. Whereas a financial planner is almost future planning, while covering existing risks. And because I love the social element of the job, I decided to jump into the financial services. I'm in a very fortunate position. My stepdad, he owns a well-established financial services company. So I went through the firm that we use, their academy process, which was a 6 months intense process in relation to passing all your exams and obviously getting some experience in relation to face-to-face advice with clients. And then from that point, I was given sort of a client bank, and I've gradually grown that client bank over the last 5-6 years. Probably wasn't the best of start because I came out the academy late 2019. And started the new journey in the beginning of 2020, and we all know what happened in that year. So yeah, but I actually see that as a bit of a positive because it was a huge learning curve for me, and for my clients that I obviously brought on board. A lot of them were first-time investors, and now they've seen the benefit of investing over that medium to long term.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, gosh, tough start, but you stuck at it. So well done for that. So tell me, how did you find out about the Certified Financial Planner assessment and why did you decide to go down that route?
Well, my stepfather, he is also chartered, although he's gone down a different route to the CISI. But the firm that we're linked to, they are huge promoters of chartered advisors, and they try and make as many advisors go through some sort of chartered pathway every year. And I looked at the CISI and I thought it would be a better path for me because time is very important in this job. We don't seem to have much spare time. And so the other route, you've got to do a lot of exams. Whereas the CISI, it's just one level 6 exam, and then obviously you do spend a lot of time doing the case study, but also the case study is very good in itself, because I feel like that's the way that we provide a service to our clients, and it almost gives you a bit of confirmation that you're doing the right thing for your clients, because the case study almost is a mirror image of the document that we provide our clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main reason. And also from a personal point of view, I had two children. I had twins in 2023.
Wow.
And again, obviously, time is of the essence, especially when you've got a family.
Yes. Well, congratulations on the twins. I'm a twin, so I know all about it. But from the other perspective, about how they will play you up in the years to come. So yeah, I'll give you all the inside track at a later date, Mitch. But yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, this becoming a certified financial planner with the CISI automatically gets you chartered status as well. So you can become the CISI designation is Chartered Fellow brackets Financial Planning.
Yeah.
And so that's what you get when you become a certified financial planner, for those who are a little unsure about it. So let's get into the nitty gritty. So how did you do the level 6 exam first, and then go straight on to the level 7 case study? What happened there?
Yeah, so I did the level 6 exam. I think it was in 2022. Um, the level 6 exam was it was a lot harder than what I was expecting. There was a lot more revision involved, and because it's been so long since I've had to sit a sort of an exam to that high standard, it did take quite a while to get back into that sort of rhythm of revising all the time.
Yeah.
And then so I did the level 6 exam then, and then my first attempt. So I have actually had, obviously, you know yourself, I've had two attempts at the case study. Stupidly, I tried to do the case study on my own the first time, without sort of your guidance, and in relation to how we format the case study, how the marker wants it written down. Um, so yeah, I did that first time and I failed. And then obviously I had the twins, so I took a little bit of a break. And then I took it again, obviously last year, end of 2024, with the help of your guidance, which honestly it was second to none. It just gave me a nice process to follow, in relation to what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how much of it needs to be done at a certain time.
Fantastic. Well, I think we can let you off with twins landing on you. These things happen.
They do.
But well done for not giving up completely, and for making the time to come back to it. Because I'm sure that with a very young family to support, you've got an awful lot on your plate as well. So time management is really the key to this process, isn't it? Because you can go down so many rabbit holes, never to be seen again. So tell us a little bit about when you got your level 7 case study. How did you decide to approach it? I mean, are you the kind of person that does like an hour every day, or you have to do like 2 or 3 hours, a couple of times a week? What was your general overall approach initially?
So on the first attempt, it was very scattergun. There was no real sort of format to it. But the second time that I approached it was, I basically booked in my calendar 1.5 hours, almost a day, almost every day, including weekends, to spend some quality time on just working on the case study. I think with the case study, you have to put the hard graft in, otherwise you will fall short. So I know obviously in this line of work it's very busy. You don't have much spare time, so a lot of those hours were done after the twins had gone to bed late at night, and then early in the morning on a weekend. But that's the approach that I had, and I actually just physically book in that time in my diary, to almost make sure that I obviously did that work.
Yes. And how did your other half feel about all of this?
Yeah, well, Not great, if I'm being honest. But
Oh, bless.
she's very like-minded to myself, and she understands what the long-term goals of doing these sort of qualifications are. So it was a bit of short-term pain for long-term gain, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And tell us a little bit about what particular areas of the case study did you find the most challenging, and how did you kind of plan to escape from all of that and overcome it?
Yeah, I think for me, the most challenging aspect of the case study was the spreadsheets by a country mile. Um, with me being an accountant previously, I'm pretty. I think I'm pretty good at Excel, but it's just the amount of spreadsheets that you have to do, and all because all the spreadsheets are almost interlinked. If you
Yes.
get a spreadsheet wrong in the early days, it can have a huge impact on the recommendations further in the plan. So yeah, for me, it was almost triple checking that those spreadsheets at the beginning of the plan were pulling out the correct figures, and then obviously just going from there. Um,
Yes.
I think the second part, or the second sort of most time-consuming thing was the writing up. Um, Making sure it had no jargon in it. It was almost trying to treat it like it was an idiot's guide. So the person who you're presenting it to doesn't have any basic understanding of financial planning. So if anyone could pick up this sort of case study or this document, they can read it from start to finish and they'll fully understand what's being recommended and why it's being recommended.
Yes, and that's really interesting. We're going to get on to that in a minute about the difference it's made in your life and your professional life.
Yeah.
But just tell us roughly, how many hours do you think it took you? Do you have a feel for how long it took you, adding up all those 1.5 hours virtually every day for 10 weeks? Sorry. Yeah.
I think the spreadsheets took the most time. There's no doubt about that. I would say on a rough estimation, 160 hours potentially, which does seem like a lot. And I think one of my top tips would be as soon as you get the case study, you start it because the quicker you start the case study, the more time you've got to check it at the end. And I know a lot of people, I used to be like this myself, would leave things to the last minute and ultimately you're just going to fail if you do that because you do obviously have to put the time in to get this pass mark.
Yes. And I think also you probably need a bit of time to kind of think about stuff, don't you?
Exactly.
You're not just doing all the time, are
Yeah,
you?
yeah. I mean, so the 1.5 hours I was booking in, sometimes those 1.5 hours were reading back what I've obviously already written, or just checking over the various spreadsheets that you do as well. So yeah, it wasn't all about just writing it up constantly. It was about also just sort of taking stock of what you've done so far. Is it still the right thing? Because you know what things are like. Things come out further in the woodwork where your recommendations may slightly change further into the plan. So it's just making basically reviewing those recommendations constantly, reviewing the spreadsheets to make sure that they marry up with what you're recommending, and obviously just reading the text that you've written.
Yes. And what about the most enjoyable bit of this process, do you think?
Getting it finished.
Yes, I don't blame you.
To
Do you
be
think that going through all of that has changed you as a financial planner now?
Um, one thing I would say it has done is, from a personal point of view, we do similar sort of reports for clients, and if that's a key standard from a chartered point of view, it gives me a bit of confirmation that in my job we're doing the right thing on behalf of our clients because they are getting detailed reports every time we have a review or every time we're doing a proposal for a potential client. So yeah, I think it's definitely confirmed that. But I also have integrated some of the spreadsheets that we used in relation to cash flows, because I do feel like cash flow modeling, even for a basic Excel format, is very useful, and it can be quite engaging from a client facing point of view.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that you have simplified the language at all as a natural consequence of going through this process and obviously having to strip everything back, haven't you?
Definitely, definitely. I feel like when we use less jargon, um, and there's always we always want to make sure that the clients fully understand the proposition or why certain things have happened within the market. So I feel like the length of the report, because it's a huge report that you obviously have to do for the case study, and you have to almost cover off every single, almost do a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and cover off any of the risks and stuff. And I do feel like it does massively help in your day-to-day job, because it's just improving your skill set basically.
Yes, yes. And, I guess for most people doing this case study, because the client has four different objectives that
Yeah.
you're trying to achieve. And, for many financial planners out there, they're not necessarily doing all four or more for a client on their first sitting,
No.
aren't they? You
No.
might do one or two, perhaps,
Yeah.
maybe three, but probably more likely to be two objectives.
Yeah.
And so, does that has going through this process helped you kind of think a bit further down the line and maybe have better or deeper conversations with clients about, those unintended consequences or knock-on effects that perhaps before the process, you just maybe hadn't really given that much thought to?
Yeah, I think definitely from a risk point of view, I think the case study massively helps. Because in the case study, um, objectives obviously are going to change, and recommendations are going to change if someone becomes ill, or someone unfortunately passes away. Um, and I think, as an industry, we may overlook protection a little bit. Um, and I think protection is the forefront of all recommendations, because it almost gives the plan good foundations to be built on. So from my point of view, I discuss protection a lot more with clients, I would say now, than probably I previously did. Because the majority of our bag, or the majority of our sort of offering, has predominantly been sort of retirement planning, investment planning, and inheritance tax planning.
Yeah.
But you need to underpin the risks through protection. So some of the spreadsheets that we did in the case study are a really good illustration of the impact of ill health or death. And I actually use some of those spreadsheets now, when I'm going through proposals with clients, to clearly illustrate the reasons why we're recommending certain protection products.
So, looking back now, you've had a little chance to kind of polish your halo after
Yeah.
passing. So, congratulations on passing. Looking back though now, what tips could you give people who are about to embark on their journey to become a CFP and chartered with the CISI?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, don't be scared. Okay. Don't be scared about failure. I feel like it's just a process, and it does feel like a lot of work at the beginning when you get the case study through on email. But you've just got to follow the process and make sure that you're putting on your first submission as much as you physically can, because if you do fail, then at least you're going to have less work to do on your second submission.
Yeah.
It's just about the process. Not everyone's going to pass first time. I didn't. But it's just making sure that you're putting yourself in a good position to pass second time. So that would be my first top tip. The second one would be time management. Um, I've probably learned the hard way by failing the first time, but the second time, By sticking to the booking slots on your diary, and doing little and often on the case study, it keeps your mind sort of refreshed. So there's not huge gaps between when you're working on it and when you're not working on it. But it also means that you can easily plan the 20-week period you have for your first submission. So the way that I did it was I done some research. The research recommended that you spend at least 150 hours. I divided the 150 hours by the 20 weeks, and then go from there. And then obviously you've got to give yourself a bit of time for checking thereafter. So second thing would be definitely time management and starting the case study as soon as you get it, basically. And the final thing I would say is all around the spreadsheets. Again, you can't underestimate the importance of the spreadsheets, because that's basically the foundations that your recommendations are built on. And I feel like you need to just triple check those spreadsheets, especially the ones, the base plan that you create first and foremost, because basically the rest of the spreadsheets going forward are built off that base plan. And if the base plan is wrong, every single spreadsheet going forward is going to be incorrect, and therefore your recommendations are going to be incorrect, which will ultimately end up in a fail.
Yes. And obviously, if you do fail, like you passed on your second submission, you have up to another 10 weeks, don't you?
You do.
And you can actually do that, twice over. So basically it's 3 submissions
Correct.
in one great big go before you'd have to start again with a new case study.
Yeah.
So it's quite unique, isn't it? Well, actually, never mind the quite unique. It is unique.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like sitting an exam where you kind of sit it and you either pass or fail, and it's like, oh crikey, I failed, right, got to do it all over again. You're basically, like you were saying, you put in maximum effort for your first submission, and then if you do fall a little bit short, then it is just that, it's falling very short.
Yeah.
And how long do you think it took you to make those amendments?
I wouldn't say very long. 10 hours. I think if you do the hard work, and the hard work at the beginning, and you get the majority of the case study done for submission 1, then ultimately you should only have small tweaks and changes to do for submission 2. So in theory, yes, you should be able to get those done in the 10 weeks that you've got to submit your second submission.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. Thanks so much for sharing all of your advice. I'm sure that our listeners are going to find it extremely valuable. Best of luck with the twins and the future career. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Jackie. Thanks for your time.
It's really interesting, isn't it, to listen to different people who have different experiences of gaining their Certified Financial Planner certification, or maybe developing the financial planning profession at large. If you know anybody who you think might be interested in listening to any of these podcasts, then please do pass on our details. That's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. See you again soon. Bye for now.